Welcome everybody, I'm Sam from The Growing Space. I run a small business called The Growing Space, and I have 2 NDIS participants in my life who are hiding out in the corner because they're not allowed to come out here right now. Type the questions in chat, we've covered that. I want to say again, the slides, the video, the transcript, the Auslan will all be available on the Growing Space website later. So don't feel too distressed if your sound doesn't work well or you can't get something working. You will still be able to have access to this, and we should be able to get that up for you, hopefully today, but certainly within 24 hours. Okay, the first and really important thing is that this webinar is not providing you with medical advice. If you're worried about your health or the health of somebody you support around COVID, contact the government's National Coronavirus Helpline. For those with vision impairment, that's 1-800-020-080. That number is really important. You can call them at any time if you feel the need, but do save it for when there is actually a need. I'm sure they're pretty overrun too. Okay, this is the stuff we're going to cover. We're going to talk about NDIS stuff. We're going to talk about getting ready to be fully self-isolated, which is somewhat redundant because we're here now, but this will give you some tips on how to make that happen. Talking about support workers, your essential needs, reducing your risk of catching the virus, but not from a medical perspective, how to self-isolate, working with providers, because that's a really changing environment right now, what to do when everything goes pear-shaped, connection and mental health, this is really important. What can I buy? Got a lot of questions about that. And also what about how to help when you've lost your income, because I'm sure quite a few of you will have lost your jobs at this point. So the first is, how can you teach someone that you love about this coronavirus? We know that this is a really difficult time for people. People don't understand. There are a lot of people with intellectual disabilities or cognitive impairments and autism that might be wondering what on earth is going on. My routine has been thrown into an absolute spin. Why do I have to wash my hands? Why can't I go out? We have got an easy English explanation of a lot of this stuff, and I will be updating that in the next 24 hours as well. All of this will be available on the Growing Space website, and that will be free. You will not have to pay to join, although if you want to access the other resources on there, you do have to pay to join that, and you can claim that on your plan. So how can you learn more yourself? There is a great free training that the government have put out. Don't be put off by that web address at the bottom, that covid-19training.com.au. It is a government sanctioned training. It will only take you between 10 and 20 minutes to do, and it will give you some great information. It goes all through the basics, how you can protect people that work with you, what do you do if you get symptoms, what do you do if the person you're supporting has symptoms, and how to tell the difference about some of the myths and facts. I think that's really important to get that solid training and information. So I encourage you to do it, and I also encourage you to send that link to your support workers if you have them, so that they can do this training as well and be well aware of what to do. All right, first of all, NDIS stuff. What are the NDIS doing to help all of us? Oh my goodness. You can request phone planning meetings. Most planning meetings, the vast majority, will need to be done by phone by now. But if you really need to do it in person, you can request that. That might change. That may change at any minute. In fact, all of the information we're giving to you is changing on a day-by-day basis. That's why we're doing it live. That's why I'm so nervous. Okay. NDI offices are still open to the public. They did put out some communications early yesterday, that said they were closed, but they are still open at this point. Maybe that will change tomorrow. This is a biggie. If you're happy with your current plan and you're coming up for your review, you can have it renewed for up to 24 months, but you have to ask. So you're going to have to call that call centre or speak to your LAC and tell them, I'm happy with this plan, roll it over, baby. Save yourself that review if you really can. The only things that will not roll over are capital, so that's equipment, etc. So you'll need to speak to your LAC about that if you haven't got your equipment provided yet. And you can actually speak about extras or changing the buckets. So if you're going to do this plan rollover, don't forget to say, if you think you're going to need less core and more capacity, or the other way around, ask that when you ask them to roll it over. When they're talking about the rollover, they're more talking about the actual funding amount to be rolled over. How it's made up in there, you might have the option to be flexible on that. There's Like so many things in the NDIS, there's not a lot of consistency in that right now, and that's understandable given the changing nature of everything. Okay, and the NDIS is prioritising changes, changes of circumstances reviews for those that really need it, particularly if you're at the end of if you run out of the funding due to the COVID crisis. Are my services going to cost more now? Well, they may well. Your plan will not be automatically topped up with this, but many services in your plan are now able to be charged at 10% more for up to the next 6 months. That includes assistance with daily life, which is basically your core supports, but it doesn't include SIL quotes. So if your person is living with a SIL provider support, then they are not having their money raised at this point. Also, improved daily living is going up. Support coordination is not going up, and SLES is not going up. Cancellations can now be charged at 100% instead of 90%. And the notice times are going to change, but we don't actually know how the notice times are going to change at this point. But if you cancel, your provider will be able to charge you. If they cancel, they cannot. And once again, your plan will not at this stage be automatically topped up. Help, we don't have enough money in the plan, and why aren't our plans automatically increasing? This is kind of complicated, but most NDIS plans are not utilised fully. The vast majority are not utilised fully. So they've decided not to do that at this stage, but if you're getting close and you're worried and you're using more funding because you've switched from an ADE or a day options program to in-home supports, awesome, please put in for a change of circumstance and outline those urgent circumstances. Call that 1-800 number, send an email. I suggest you call the 1-800. I suggest you do both, cover all bases. All right, will my next plan be smaller because I couldn't use all of it because of COVID? They assure us no. This is actually a screenshot from the NDIS website. They have a whole series of Q&As and they are updating them nearly daily. So this was an update from yesterday that says that if you don't spend your funding because of services not being available or you're self-isolating, they will definitely take that into account at your next planning meeting. All right, there's lots of questions going to be coming in on can you use your therapy funds or your core funds to buy equipment because your therapist can't come anymore. We're going to cover that more later. The short answer is there are going to be cases where that's a yes, but not all. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Can I change my NDIS plan to be more flexible? Yes, you can. You're going to have a review of the plan. I wouldn't worry about your funding level changing. If you just need the buckets changed around and you need more money in one bucket than the other, then go ahead and do that. Now, I know there are some people from the NDIS watching today, so I just want you guys to cover your ears for a minute because I'm going to say something evil. If you are self-managed and you need to shovel money from one bucket to the other, personally, this is not advice, personally, I would just claim from whatever bucket I could at this time, and I would not be hassling the NDIA to make those changes. They've got bigger fish to fry. NDIS people, you could take your hands out of your ears right now. Okay, next, we're going to move pretty fast today. Getting ready. Kind of seems too late, doesn't it? But it's not. It's not. There are still plenty of things you can do, and there's also plenty of things you've probably already done. Make sure you've got enough food in the house for a week if you can, or get some arrangements with some local providers to be delivering. Make sure your medicine and your non-prescription medicines, your over-the-counter stuff. Don't forget your laxatives and your antihistamines. Make sure you've got a supply of a month or so there. Don't overstock, don't go ridiculous because other people need stuff too, but get what you need for a month. Also make sure you've got your cleaning and your personal hygiene products. I see that hand sanitizer is starting to become back in stock in certain places, so keep your eyes open for that as well. NDIS participants, here are some things that you can spend your NDIS money on. Presumably you guys know this already, but make sure you've got enough continence aids in the house. Make sure you've got your HENS equipment, your thickener, your catheters, all of those consumable items. If you go over in your consumable items into your core, that should not be a problem for self and plan managed participants. If you're agency managed, you may well need to call the NDIS and have some money shifted around in your plan. Now, PPE is a really tough one. It's just not available. That's personal protective equipment. So that's the gloves, your sanitizer, your mask, gowns, disinfectant, all of those things. This stuff is starting to become in stock. I got an email yesterday or the day before from Mabel saying that their clients, they have a stock available for their clients. And I think we'll see more of this as time goes on. Do try and get those supplies up if you can. Don't oversupply, please, because we're such big demand right now. All right, support workers. My support workers are cancelling on me. What can I do? Find out why they're cancelling. Maybe they can work for you remotely. I'll give you some ideas about that in a minute. Contact your support coordinator if you have one to get some help. Contact other service providers. Just start making calls. Make sure you have an emergency plan, which I will also cover, and know who can do emergency backups if your needs are critical, and we'll also cover that in a minute. So do know what your essential or critical needs are. How can I find and use new workers? I think a lot of us are going to have to find new people, because people will stop working because they will have their own caring obligations, or they may have been exposed to the virus, or they may get it themselves. So broaden your search when you're looking for support workers. Think about people that used to work in hospitality. Those guys are all out of work, and they're all people. So think about the people that work at your local cafe. Give them a call. Give your local cafe a call and say, look, if you had to sack any of your workers, do you think any of them might be able to help me? Obviously, they're not going to have the skills around personal care, manual handling, medication management. If you're willing and capable of training them in that, that's great. If not, assign them to do the other stuff. Get them to do the laundry. Hire Up, for those of you that are Hire Up clients, and in fact, for those of you that are not, Hire Up has started a new assistance service. If you click on their COVID link, which is at the top of their homepage, they can help you quickly onboard and assess and find appropriate new workers for you, particularly those that do have those extra skills around the manual handling, medication, behaviour, etc. Ways to use new workers. It might be a good idea if you can reduce your risk and have fewer workers doing more work. So maybe you need to move on a couple of your workers, or have them do external chores, and just have a couple of workers in the house if you really do require workers in your home. Now, this is a big question. So many people are asking this, and I can tell you there are a lot of lobbyists working very hard to make this happen, but you are still not allowed to pay family members from your plans. Some family members might be able to claim for carer payment and put in an application for that, and I've lobbied now for government to fast track those carer payment applications, but no, you are still not allowed to pay family members. Now, I know some of you are going to ask me too, how do you define a family member, and is my cousin's girlfriend a family member? I think you've got to use some common sense in here. You certainly would not be hiring anybody in your immediate family. Further than that, you're going to have to make your own decisions. The NDIA have not defined exactly what family means. I'll leave that to you. All right, let's talk about essential needs. Essential needs, or critical needs is what I call them, is anything that actually keeps you alive and something that you cannot live without. So for most people, that will include eating and drinking. It'll include toileting support, personal hygiene, and that work that prevents bed sores and physical injury for those with physical disability. And it also, and this is such a biggie, guys, don't forget this, mental health and preventing self-harm are essential support needs. So if you need a support worker to help you with that work, please keep those workers coming and keep them doing what they need to do. Don't forget, if we've got a lot of people in our lives, a lot of us will have people in our lives where behaviour support is going to become really, really super tricky over these next few months of lock-in. So make sure that you put that on your essential support needs list. Have you all got an emergency plan, a backup plan? This is hard for people to do. It's very confronting, but we are here now and this needs to happen. So put yourself together an emergency contact number list. This picture on the left of the screen that lists potential numbers, I'm going to share that on our growing space page as well, so that you can print that up and write it in. So we want you to include your current support workers' names and phone numbers and contacts, as well as any agency that's managing them if they are. And also a backup one. Make a couple extra calls even now and find out. As support coordinators, we're already hearing from providers that they are basically dumping community support and focusing all their workers on their in-home supports for those in group homes, etc. Very, very distressing for us, but also understandable given the circumstances. Think about any family members that might be able to help, immediate family members that might be able to help with you. And then think about extended family. Are there cousins or are there friends? Are there people that you know that at a pinch could drop in and help you get out of bed, or could make sure that you've got water? Whatever it is that are your essential critical needs that we've identified as per the last one. And then going a little bit further, and this is getting a bit uncomfortable, what about your neighbours? Can a support worker drop a flyer in your neighbours' letterboxes to say, hey, I might really need some urgent help here. Some of you aren't going to like your neighbours. Some of you are not going to want to do this. Others of you will have neighbours that have seemed friendly and waved and what have you. Don't hesitate to put something in those letterboxes, because it may come down to needing their support. Then there's also the Red Cross and other agencies of that nature. They may be able to help you at a real pinch. We're getting pretty desperate now, but times may end up in that way. We've heard some awful stories coming out of what's happened to people from overseas, and we just don't want that happening to you guys. Then, of course, there's the police. Police can do welfare checks. If you call police, they can send somebody over. They can even break in the front door if you need them to help you get you off the floor or whatever it is that you might need help for in an urgent situation. Last resort, and we don't want to go there if we don't have to, is calling up an ambulance and going to hospital. We really don't want to clog the hospitals, and we also don't want to be exposed by going to hospital. So if you can avoid that at any stretch, please do. All right, it's pretty heavy stuff, isn't it, guys? How to reduce your risk. This is a bit more positive. This is some stuff that you can actually do right now. Stay at home. Seems a bit redundant after the Prime Minister's messages yesterday. So yeah, stay at home. Don't go out if you have to. Send someone else out to do the shopping. Don't socialise with others in your home or out and about if you can possibly help it. Just avoid other people. Become a hermit. Find new hobbies. Limit or stop shopping in person, and preferably have external people do that shopping and drop off for you to the people that come into your home. Try and keep that separate. Reduce the risk of any of that stuff coming in home. And keep stuff clean, including deliveries. I've heard that deliveries don't pose a big risk, but I'll tell you the stuff that I'm doing. We have our deliveries, our Woolies people. You'll probably know about Woolies and Coles have priority deliveries for people with disability now, and they can just drop it off. They don't need you to sign or open the door. After that's done, I'm putting on gloves. I'm spreading out the shopping outside on a table, and that shopping that can be left outside for 24 hours, I'm leaving it outside. If it can't be left, I'm spraying it with disinfectant or wiping it over. And fruit and vegetables, I'm washing with soap and veg. It's probably overkill. It's not necessarily recommended, but I'm just in a space where I'm being extra vigilant, and that's what I'm trying to do. I say trying to do. I'm not perfect. I don't do it all the time, but I'm working on it. All right, those of you that are wheelchair users, I'm going to post this as well. This has been very thankfully shared by Yellow Submarine. I very much appreciate all of those that have contributed to the materials that we've built here to share with you. So here's one that is good for people that are using wheelchairs. Here's a list that you can even probably tape to the bloody back of your wheelchair if you want, to remind people that they're going to have to wipe down your wheelchair every single time you go out, or every single time a person pushes you around in your wheelchair. This is going to be really important, and here are some ideas on ways to keep your wheelchair clean. We will make sure that this is posted as well separately so you can print it off. So how's my family doing this? Or how, so this is actually a photo from a client of mine, fantastic people. Hi, if you're watching, you know who you are. They've set out an outdoor washing station. So when their workers come, they do not come through the front door. They go through the side gate, and out the back, they have to wash their hands and use a hand towel. The picture of the hand towels, the orange, purple, and red. Now you know the names of our workers. VMAX is also known as Clary. Dylan and Brendan, they each have their own hand towel that hangs outside, and at the end of every day that it's used, we bring them inside and wash them in 60-degree water. They also have their own plastic cups outside because our workers are only working outside now. We're not allowing them in the house. So the plastic cups are out there so they can help themselves to a drink of water. I'm lucky, our workers are blokes, so they can go down the back of the yard and do their pee. Obviously, not everybody's going to be able to do that, and you will need to allow workers inside, even if you have them outside for the majority of the time. I am trying to stick to a routine of wiping down all the surfaces in my home. This is not easy to do, but I am working on this, and I'm working on getting better at it. So if you've got hospital grade disinfectant, you want to wipe down your doorknobs, your taps, your toilet, your phone. Remote controls are a biggie. Your computer keyboards and the mice, joysticks if you've got kids playing, and controllers, you know, if they're playing on DS, on Xboxes and what have you. Cupboard handles. A big one is the fridge handle. You really want to do the fridge handles. The outside gate latches if people are coming in and out, tables and benches, the steering wheel of your car if you're still driving in and out, and the door handles. There are lots of different things there to think about. Do what you can. We've talked about the workers going through the side gate and the colour-coded cups that we've got as well. And I'm sure plenty of you have other ideas as well. If you want to put those in the Q&A, I'd appreciate it because I can add it into the materials that I share with people later. All right, what are some other ways that I can reduce risk? We've probably covered a few of these. Have your groceries and medicines delivered by workers who do not work in your house. Put up a do not enter sign on your front door. Even if you are having people enter, at least it's a visual reminder. And also some hand washing signs. Here's the stop sign. Whoops, there we go. We've got that on our Facebook page and our website. And we'll make sure I put this all together in one page centrally within the next couple of days so everybody can download it. We've also downloaded this one. Hard to see, I'm sorry about that. There, that's a bit better. And this is a hand washing, how to use hand wash and how to hand rub using sanitizer. And that's come from the World Health Organization. I've got this laminated and put up in our bathrooms to remind ourselves to wash properly. You can even draw or tape do not cross lines. You might want to keep part of your house free of workers or outside. Might want to put a line across the table that says, you know, the worker. It's just a visual reminder. If you have a cleaner and you need to keep a cleaner, and many of you will need to keep a cleaner through this time, and in fact, you might even want to bump up your cleaner, make sure they don't bring their own equipment into your house. Have your own mop, have your own cloths, have your own duster, make them use your vacuum cleaner. If you're a person with physical disability that can't use a vacuum cleaner, now is the time to buy a electric, you know, one of those remote ones that whiz around on the floor, or to buy a vacuum cleaner that your support worker can use, your cleaner can use, that they do not bring into the house. You don't want anyone being a typhoid Mary and going from one house to another, bringing the germs with them. So anything you can do to reduce that risk, go for it. So we've gone through a whole lot of rules and things about workers and how they can do it. Really good idea if you can write them down or get help to write them down, so that you don't have to reiterate it over and over. I know it's uncomfortable bossing people around. Many of you will be very comfortable with that. I'm quite comfortable with that, but some of you won't be. So write it down, have a support worker help you write it down, or your support coordinator, ask someone to help you, and put it all into a page that says, these are the rules of our house now. Things like you must go through the side gate. You must wash your hands outside before you come in. You must only use your hand towel or paper towel, however it is that you work it. And also ask your therapists, ask your OTs and your physios how they can help you institute these rules and to keep you busy and learning new skills, or the person that you love. There are very different ways of working, but a lot of these therapists are pretty smart people, and they're coming up with some really creative ways. All right, self-isolating, more stuff about that. Do think about food delivery options. There might be a really favorite cafe or restaurant near you that obviously is not open to the public at this point, but many of them will be open for takeaway. So do give them a call, have a chat, see what the menu is, and see if you can't have some food delivered. If you're having your food delivered because of your disability, then you can most likely claim 80% of that cost from your NDIS plan. So that will cover the preparation and the delivery costs, and that 20% or so will cover your own, the raw food costs, the costs that you would have anyway that are not disability related. If you do not have, if your plan is plan managed, you may need to have buckets of money shuffled around and call the NDIS to do that. The NDIS have said in the past that meal preparation and delivery is a stated support. If you are a self-managed participant, I would not worry about that. That does not apply to you. If you are plan managed, talk to your plan manager about a way to get around that and fix that. Maybe you can have a worker do your laundry. For those of you out there that are family carers, you know, the weight of your caring responsibilities have probably just increased manifestly, because I know for me, because we don't have workers in the house now, the things that the workers were helping with in the home are now back to me, and I'm working full time as well, or a lot more than full time. So if there are things you can do, like leave the washing basket outside and have a separate worker pick it up and wash it at home and deliver it back folded, that could really help. And obviously many of you with disability can use that as well. Doesn't have to be a proper delivery service. Let's keep our support workers in work. These guys need money too. And develop a bit of a routine. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute too. All right, here we go. Here's the routine. So the routine on the right is a bit of a joke routine. I'll read it out for those of you that have vision impairment. It says homeschooling schedule, 9 a.m. home economics, learn how to make me a decent coffee. Wouldn't that be great? 10 a.m. engineering, how to operate the washing machine and vacuum cleaner. 11 a.m. we're going to do PE, carrying out rubbish and recycling to the bins, etc., etc. They've got joke examples there. While this one is a joke, I don't think having a schedule is a bad idea. In fact, I think it's a brilliant idea. And if you can make it into a visual schedule for those people with disability who like routine and who need to know what's coming up, and to be frank, that's probably most of us. I think that's a great idea. And if you include pictures, make it visual, that is great. Maybe even a therapist can help do that. They don't have to come into your home to do that. They should be able to do that remotely. You might even be able to take photos of certain things in your home and send them to your therapist, and then they can put together a visual schedule for you. Just make sure it includes some downtime and some exercise and outside time if at all possible. Look, I'm not supposed to be advising you, but just, you know what, don't expect kids to do a full school load, particularly if they're in primary school. They're going to learn a lot of other things through this time. They're going to learn how to use Xbox better. They're going to learn how to use YouTube. They probably already know those things. But anyway, don't expect them to do a full school load. Do what you can if they're at home, but don't put that massive pressure on yourself if you're a parent. All right, behaviour support. This is the stuff that gets really tricky and hard. Ask your PBS practitioner for advice. Ask your psychologist for advice and how to work with those isolation rules, particularly around some of those restrictive practices. Ask other therapists about one-to-one programs that can be done remotely. Can you stream a yoga session from the big TV that you've got? Or can some stuff be done outside with a therapist? Can a therapist come and work in your driveway? Or at the park or at a beach at a quiet time when there aren't any others around. I noticed the new rules as of today, and this may change, today is March 25th. As of the new rules, I think up to 10 people can do an outdoor fitness session together as long as they maintain that 4 metre square ruling. If you're stuck using registered providers because of your PBS requirements and you can't find those registered providers, call the NDIS Commission and ask them for advice on how or if you can use unregistered providers at this time. That may be imperative for some of you. Working with providers, here we go. What should I expect from my providers? Clear communications about their availability. You want them to give you as much warning as possible. We had one provider day before yesterday at 4 p.m. give notice to our clients saying that all services would stop immediately, except for their in-home supports. I find that appalling, and it's quite a large provider that's done that. But why don't you get on the front foot, call your providers, say, what's your plan? What are you going to do? They should be letting you know what they will need to prioritise too. Make sure your providers are telling you, have them communicate. We will make it clear to our clients that if your needs are not urgent, if you're chasing us down about horse riding lessons, we are going to prioritise the needs of someone who urgently needs someone to turn them in bed. We're just going to have to do that, and you might have to wait a couple of days or even a week to get our help on non-urgent issues. Ask about their fees and cancellation changes and how that might have changed. And if they are treating you poorly, or if they cancel all services, please contact the NDIS Commission. The phone number for that is 1800 035 544. So please contact the NDIS Commission if you're getting in trouble with your providers. The Commission needs to know. All right, here's a big list, and there's lots and lots and lots of words on this page. I am not reading them, but this document will be available to you. Many of you will have already seen it on the Growing Space website, but it is a list of ideas of ways to use social workers while maintaining that social distance, or working outside, or working remotely. We've got, I think all of our workers now are able to do some of that work remotely. You can all have a Zoom account now that you've used Zoom. You can all log in and get yourself a free basic account, which allows you to have 3 people on video at once in a meeting, and you'll be able to see all of them at once. And can you still pay them while they're working remotely? Absolutely, you can. And in fact, as a self-manager, I have made a decision that we will just continue to pay our workers regardless of whether they're working in person or off-site, or maybe even if they're not working and I've cancelled them. We're just going to keep that going. The money is there, the funding is there, and that is our option to do, because we want to retain them so that they're still available to us at the end of this. All right, now comes some of the dark stuff. What happens when it really goes pear-shaped? How can you stay connected? How can you keep your mental health? This is a photograph from a Zoom chat that I did with our family a couple of nights ago. We're going to schedule those in. They're supposedly scheduled in every night, but we've only done the first one so far. We will do more. Schedule in regular FaceTime or Skype time with friends for you or the person that you love. Help the person with disability to do that themselves so that they initiate it as well, so that they're not just a passive recipient of all of this contact. Try and help them to set this stuff up. Put it in the visual schedule, 10 a.m. Skype with mum, and make sure that that actually happens. And help that's right, help the person you love put that into the visual schedule so they know to expect it. You know, it's very alarming for people. And don't forget, people with AAC requirements should still be able to use these formats. They just won't be able to, you may have to translate for them if you're supporting them, but at least they'll be able to have that visual for those that don't have visual impairments. Facebook groups. There's some fantastic groups popping up all over the country, all over the world, no doubt. There's something called the Kindness Pandemic, where people are just sharing supports and doing all sorts. In Adelaide, we've got this one called Self-Isolating in Adelaide. Great source of morale and ideas, and other people to talk to that are facing similar issues to you. There's also a Facebook group called Disability and Chronic Illness COVID-19 Information Clearinghouse. It's a big, long name. That's the last one in the list of links that I've put up there. And once again, you will have access to all of this later. That group is fabulous because they are all people with disability or family members, and they're all sharing fabulous resources and information on how to do this safely and how to do this well, and keeping up morale, and also a few funny memes to keep you happy, and a fair amount of bitching about people that don't understand the serious nature of what's happening. All right, So if it goes really bad, planning for the worst, can a family member move in with you, or can you move in with your family member with disability? Or can a worker move in? Quite a few, well, not quite a few, several of our clients have picked a very trusted worker, someone that doesn't have caring requirements of their own or potential caring requirements of their own, to just move in for the period and negotiate a wage. I think you'll find that many agencies would be very happy to negotiate with you on this and to just pick a weekly figure that works for everybody to fund your worker to live in with you. If you're self-managed, obviously you have full flexibility on that. If you're plan managed, talk to your plan manager about it and see if they'll agree. Go to them with a proposal. I think most of them are being pretty flexible right now, as you know, as you'd expect, as they need to be. Also, do you, oh, that says client. I apologize, that should not say client. Do you or the person you love have a how to meet my critical needs list that a new or untrained worker could follow? So if a random walked in the door, if the policeman walked in the door, is there a one-pager that describes exactly what you need in an urgent, emergent situation? Please try and develop that. And if you can do it in easy English, in a way that has pictures to demonstrate or illustrate this, please do that too, because you might find that you have workers that don't have English as a first language. So having those visual images of how to support you will be really helpful. And once again, think about how support workers can help you even if they're sick or you are sick as well. What can they do remotely? As if prompting, I haven't tried this out yet, but I want to get one of our workers to FaceTime with my son and to have him clean up his room by FaceTime. I suspect that he'll make the FaceTime call drop out, but we'll see how it goes. We're going to give it a go. All right, creating connection and mental health. Okay. It is fine to be scared and worried right now. Everybody is scared and worried right now. And we've all got a million brain tabs open. I always think of my mind as a bit of a browser. And you know how sometimes you've got so many browsers open that your computer crashes? That's all of us now. So, but what the brain does in people is a little bit different than our computers. Our computers aren't good at this, but our brains are. What our brain does is it prioritizes the things that are most important to do, and it dumps the non-essential services. So Evie, my colleague who you spoke to from DSC earlier today, Evie said that she poured the boiling water from the kettle into her cereal instead of her coffee cup the other morning. That's okay, because it's not an essential service. We can make those mistakes and not worry about it. We're all making those mistakes. Anxiety right now for everybody is massive. This is normal, and in fact, it is healthy. We are biologically wired to be stressed at this time. But it's really important to allow ourselves to feel that sense of overwhelm, to not be little Miss Powerful all the time. And this is coming from someone who's really terrible at this. But make sure you talk to people about this stuff, vent, share. Those Facebook groups, if you don't have anyone close to, put up a post in there. Be vulnerable. Allow yourself just 20 minutes of crying in the shower if you need to be. It's okay. Because if you don't, it's going to build up and you are going to be an absolute basket case after this is over. Probably. All right, use some strategies, all the usual stuff. Get some exercise in. There's a whole heap of yoga and exercise stuff available on YouTube and other formats that you can follow. There's even on Facebook, I think there's daily things that you can do. Try and keep up a decent diet and eating good food. Engage in some humor. If you need that downtime, put up some stand-up comedy on Netflix if you've got an account. And do stay connected. Talk to people, it's important. Think about some professional help if you might need it too. Remote counselling or psychology. If you're a parent or a carer, or informal care, an unpaid family member, you may be able to use your NDIS funds to pay for those services through the person you love's plan if your stress is related to your caring needs. So do consider that you can use your psychology funding for that. Also, keep busy. Find a new hobby if you can. I think the classic one that a lot of people are doing is pulling out all the old photos and starting to sort them. or sorting them online. It's one of those jobs that we never get to. And establish a routine for yourself and include in it, yes, cleaning doorknobs, but also that self-care work that we just talked about. Don't expect yourself to automatically do that self-care in a way that you might normally. Normally, you might be going to that yoga class or whatever else. If you're not scheduling it in and have it in your face on a schedule, chances are you're going to drop it because you might not consider it an essential service, but I'm telling you, it's essential. Make sure you do it. I want to talk to you. This was an absolutely fabulous analogy given to me by Sarah Reese, who does some disability support work and has lived experience of psychosocial disability. She was talking to me last night about this, and I thought it was just beautiful. So when you think about a birch tree and a gum tree, in a time of drought, a birch tree actually survives quite well. It looks good. The leaves stay on, it stays green, it's all very pretty. That's the tree on the left. On the right, you've got the gum tree, and the gum tree drops its leaves, drops a half of its branches. It looks dead. It gives itself some space to die, right? It shuts down anything but its essential services. But then after the drought is over, the birch tree is dead forever. But the eucalyptus tree, the gum tree, starts sprouting again. And we need to be that gum tree. We need to vent and have that self-care so that we don't be the gum tree, that we don't be the birch tree. We need to be that gum tree. All right, what can I buy? All of you are asking all sorts of questions about how can I spend my money. The rules are the same. It's on page 8 of the NDIS Guide to Self-Management, which you can download, or page 9 of booklet 3, which is about how to use your funds, which is about using your NDIS plan, the booklet 3 from the NDIS. So the questions all remain the same. You still can't replace supports that would usually be provided by your family, friends, and within your community, but a lot of that's changed now, hasn't it? So let's talk a little bit about a few things. This is one of our clients who's agreed for us to use that photo. She's a fabulous young woman with multiple disabilities. See that table she's got there? Usually she doesn't have, there's no outdoor table or chairs at her house. And what she has done is I have supported them to purchase a trestle table from Bunnings, just a fold up, lightweight, cheap thing to put outside to create a visual barrier and distance between the person with disability and the worker. So the worker sits at the other end. So they're able to do crafting together and chat and whatever else while still maintaining that social isolation distance. These are things that you would never normally use your NDIS funds for, or neither would it be appropriate. But now these things are definitely a possibility. The questions that I'm hearing being asked all over Facebook include things like webcams. Good luck if you can find one. But yes, if you need a webcam to engage in your therapy or with support workers, I would suspect that would be fundable through your NDIS plan. Of course, go through the list, make up your own decision. I cannot provide direct advice on this because everybody's situation is different. You might need a longer cable for something so that a worker can work further away from you. We had already purchased, not through NDIS funds, a second computer screen with a direct cable so that my son can work at one end of the table and his computer plugs into another computer screen that's at the other end of the table. So the support worker can sit at the other end of the table and direct Ben on what to do on his computer, or vice versa. Ben can look at the second screen and direct the worker what they want to do. He and his workers are right now building a website for his small business, his micro enterprise that he's building, and that's working really well. You might need increased internet requirements, both on your phone and on your home, or one or the other. That could well be considered an NDIS fundable expense, but do be aware that if you do that, you would only be claiming the difference between your current plan and the bigger one, and that you would need to stop that after this crisis is over. You might need things like extra hand towels. I just bought 10 extra hand towels for the workers so that they've got their own. That to me is a PPE expense for our workers. Noise cancelling headphones. I think a lot of you have probably already considered that, but they may be really important to be able to engage in online therapy, etc. Your personal protective equipment goes without saying, really. Now, computer, that's a really big one. I would suggest that purchase of a computer during this stage is probably not claimable, although it will be for some. I'm not going to give a blanket answer. But what you might want to consider is renting one, because that would clearly be a disability-related short-term expense that would be appropriate. So you may be able to rent a computer, and that would be the same for exercise equipment as well. Rent a treadmill, rent a bike. I'm going to guess a lot of that stuff is close to not available, but if you can jump on now and rent some of that stuff, I reckon you could claim that on your plan. And there might be capacity to claim for buying some of it. Once again, it's going to be related to you and your disability service support needs, and going through those lists on page 8 and page 9 of those guides. All right, Evie, can I ask you to jump in for a second and tell me how much time I've got?
Sure, it's 11:55.
So how much time have I got?
Well, if everybody wants to leave at noon, 5 minutes, but I'm happy to stick around and do questions. And I guess, Chelsea, can you give me a thumbs up if you can stick around a bit longer for questions? She's giving me a nod, yes. So we can.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. Much appreciated. I'm nearly done. I'm sorry this has taken longer than I had hoped. Just a last slide, and we'll make this pretty quick because you can have a look at this later. Many of you will have lost income, and I can't imagine that trauma right now. Centrelink has supports available, but obviously, as we all know, it's very hard to get in touch with Centrelink at the moment. I encourage you to not go to a Centrelink office. You do not want to be exposed there. If you can hold off and do it by phone later when things settle down a little, I would encourage you to do that. They're also, I did hear the Minister mention yesterday on the 24th that they are hiring an extra 5,000 staff members to handle this load. So give them some time. If you were working in hospitality, for example, or you've lost your job, you may now be eligible for carer payment if you are looking after someone with disability in your home. Or if you're a disabled person that was working and has now lost their job, you might now be eligible for DSP. So do explore those options. Consider doing support work. You guys, you know the skills, you've got lived experience. As a disabled person, who better to help somebody else with disability? Or as a informal carer or family member, also, who better to do support work? Think about reducing your own exposures though as well. Small business, if you've run a small business, you'll be eligible for some payments. Have a look at business.gov.au for that. Banks, I think, are starting to hold mortgage payments. I think there's going to be support for renters coming soon, so hold out for that. And maybe you can just offer support for others who are able to work. So, for example, you know, any healthcare workers, maybe you can go and help look after their kids, do some homeschooling, do their shopping for them. There might be things that you can do. And also just consider general volunteering. I know there's a lot of volunteering agencies in dire straits right now. If you can do work remotely and help without pay, if you've got that ability to do that, then go for that as well. All right, last actual slide, second to last actual slide. For those with vision impairment, it's a picture of a train tunnel with someone walking at the end with the light at the end. And I've just written what here is that the light at the moment seems a long way away, and this is really hard for everyone. But you all need to know you are not alone. And I want you all to be the gum tree and not the birch. Look after yourselves. So thank you very much for your time. Huge thanks to Evie. Don't leave us yet. We're going to do some Q&As. But I just want to put out a really big call to Disability Services Consulting. They are a disability service focused business, but if you get onto their website, they have some fabulous resources for participants as well. And it's disabilityservicesconsulting.com.au, and we'll shove that in on a slide somewhere before we release this as well. Evie, I trust you to add that in, please. Big thanks to our Auslan interpreter, Chelsea, who has jumped in at very short notice. And huge thanks also to Lee, who's done that live captioning. We will be making the transcript, the Auslan, the slides, and the video all available for free for everyone. And I'm hoping you'll share the shit out of it, because we really want people to know, to be supported and know what they can do around this whole crisis. So let's go to questions. Yeah, there's one here. Did I miss the part about purchasing equipment? I think I covered that, but I can go into that a little bit more. Yes, purchase or rent equipment with your NDIS funds. Speak to your plan manager before you do it, just to make, if you've got a plan manager, to make sure that they're happy to reimburse that or pay that for you. But if you're a self-manager, you should definitely be able to use your core funds to do that.
Cool. Okay, I can get a few more. So you can still keep asking your questions in Q&A. We'll work through a few that came up first, and there's loads. There's already 60, so we definitely won't get through all. But Sam, will existing review requests be delayed, do you think, for people who lodged an internal review request before COVID-19?
I think if it doesn't include a review for critical support needs, I would imagine that they will be not prioritised. If your existing review is about critical support, and we're not talking horse riding or physio to build core strength, those kinds of things are really important, but they're not critical. And I think the NDIA need to and will be focusing on those with critical support needs at this point.
Okay. You touched about this a little bit in the webinar, but I think it would be worth making clear. Somebody was saying, and
now we can see each other. Yay!
Absolutely.
So do I need to be quiet? Have you pinned Chelsea so she can be seen?
Everybody should all be able to see only speakers now. So we should have everybody in view.
All three. Can everyone see all three people? Can someone answer that? Yeah, brilliant. Nice. Thanks, guys.
Okay. So Sam, your next question is, someone has been told that their support worker is not allowed to do anything that's not face-to-face with the participant. So can you give some information about when you can do Skype?
Yeah, that is 100% incorrect. And in fact, the NDIA have even put out in their Q&A that workers can work remotely. There is nothing to stop that. If your agency is saying that, please report them to the NDIS Commission so that the Commission can get in contact with them and tell them that that is incorrect.
Okay. Someone wants to know, they're a support worker who has been living a hermit life and they're ready to start supporting people now. How would they find people? And that's a good question for others who might be looking for support workers too. Yeah,
it depends on how their business is run. If they are a independent support worker with their own ABN and insurance and they run their own business, then you would do whatever it is that you would normally do. I would be getting on Facebook and getting into the groups and letting people know. That disability and chronic illness one would be a classic one to join. If you're on Higher Up, for example, I would be letting Higher Up know the skill set that you have, because they are looking and prioritising workers that have the skills and experience that are needed.
Okay.
And that would probably be the same for Mabel. I'm not sure what they're doing. So they're those online platforms.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any tips for giving someone IT support without physical contact?
Yeah, when you use Skype or Zoom to do that work, there is an option to share your screen, and there is often an option to control somebody else's screen. So I would be doing that. And you might also just want to call commercial IT providers to see if they can help you as well. Now, there's lots of little businesses around where people can help set up IT and do that work. Obviously, they're all run off their feet right now. And yes, in answer to the next question that's coming, I would expect that you could claim that out of your NDIS plan if you are plan or self-managed. Obviously, you're not going to be able to do that if you're agency managed. Actually, that's something I didn't cover earlier. If your plan is agency managed and you want to switch to self or plan managed, the agency are prioritising those requests. So do make sure you call in and ask for that urgently.
Great. And I'm sorry if you said this in the presentation, but it's important enough to repeat. Can you talk about the flexibility between core and capacity building budgets?
Technically, you cannot yet claim from the wrong bucket. However, the NDIS is prioritising requests to shift money from one bucket to the other. So from capacity building to core, or core to capacity, whatever you need. So if you need to do that, if your plan or agency managed, do that. If you are self-managed, just quietly, I'd just be claiming from wherever you can claim from. Keep a record. I can't imagine anyone's going to jail for that later.
Mm-hmm. Now, you might hate me for giving you this question because it's a hard one,
Yep.
But do you have any suggestions on how to explain the social distance factor to children who seek deep pressure and activities to do with that for a support worker and participants at home who don't understand that?
Yeah, that is a really great question. Thank you. Explaining that to participants or family members is going to be really difficult. I think you as a family member are going to have to meet those needs personally and do that for the person, and not expect support workers to do that unless it's absolutely required. I think There are mechanical ways of doing these things. Get online, buy a cloud sack, buy a roller if you need to. You know those gym rollers? That will at least put a difference between you. You know those, what are they called, Evie? Those roller things that you buy to work out muscle soreness.
Yeah, a roller is what I'd call it.
Just called a roller? Yeah, I mean, Kmart have them. They're cheap, $15, $20. So anything that can put a distance between the worker and the participant, and find alternative ways to get that pressure. Now is a great time to train your dog to do therapy work if you've got a dog. Get a dog trainer to work remotely with you to train your dog to do that deep pressure and to lie on top of a person when they need it. And you can claim that too, because you're training the dog to do a disability service for you.
Okay, I think we've got time for 3 more questions. And so I've got the 3 ready here. For somebody who was waiting on AT and had approval, so assistive technology, before all this, and they've got approval, do you think equipment suppliers will stay open? Are they likely to get that equipment?
Yeah, I suspect they would all be considered essential services, and that should not be a problem. I think the bigger problem is going to be actually if they don't have the equipment in stock, it's going to be getting that equipment, because manufacture, a lot of that's done in China, and I think that's going to be that will have slowed down, and obviously it may not be considered a priority over there. So I think there's going to be some difficulties around that, but it shouldn't be at Australia's end, if that makes sense.
How would somebody access Coles priority delivery?
Now, I may have misspoken about Coles, because I think that they are the ones that are not doing the priority delivery, but Woolies definitely are. You need a companion card number, a healthcare card number, or some evidence of the disability, but it's a very simple process. You fill in a very quick form online for priority assistance, and I'm going to say that within 48 hours, most of you will get a text back saying you're approved and that you can go in and order. And while you're waiting for that approval, you can actually build up your shopping cart in the meantime, so that when the approval comes through, you can just hit checkout and it can all go. And don't forget, you should be able to claim that delivery fee from your NDIS plan if you're self or plan managed.
Mm-hmm. And final question, somebody who's self-managing for a daughter with autism, they're trying to wrap their head around some ideas and support to use for funding. Who can they speak to provide ideas and ways to use their funding?
I've got a list of 31 ideas on our Facebook page and our website, and we'll put all of that. I'm going to try and get the web developer to put all that together on one page so everybody can see it all at once. Or you can go to Disability Services Consulting. They've got a participant information page. And Evie, I might just shoot you those documents over and you can upload them to your site as well. Other ideas, talk to therapists. You know, OTs are generally speaking, pretty creative people, and get online on those groups. There are some brilliant ideas being shared online in the Facebook groups if you've got access to those.
Great. And I've got a couple suggestions I'll read out and then we go from people who
fabulous.
Have questions. Cool. So someone suggested the emergency card that you mentioned with the contacts. There'd be a great idea to print that out, maybe laminate it, have it in large print around the house, and maybe in someone's wheelchair if they're going out.
I would say, I would say also with that is to email that to all of your providers and to your extended family and network, so that everybody's got access to who to call when it all falls to Pope, if it does. Hopefully it doesn't.
Great. We've got a suggestion to look up on Facebook, a model called Just Listening, which gives an idea of how you can connect with somebody without physical contact. Sounds interesting. We'll link to that. We'll also link to a specific COVID-19 group for people with Duchenne. I think I'm saying that correctly.
Yep, that's right. Duchenne's muscular dystrophy.
And final one, apparently it's quite common practice in Europe to wash vegetables and fruit in the sink with a couple teaspoons of bicarb soda.
There you go. I don't know if bicarb soda is a disinfectant, so I don't know if it kills the virus. I would not want to give that advice without further research, but maybe it does.
Yeah, okay. So that's probably all the questions that we've got time for. So just to remind everybody, we will send everybody the slides. We'll send you the transcript of this, and we will send you, if I can manage to piece it all together, the video of the Sam's presentation as well as the Auslan recording.
All right. I just want to thank everybody for this. I have a suspicion that Evie and I might do more of these, because I think we're going to need to. Sorry, Evie, I've just sucked her in on that. Don't tear the hair out. Chelsea might have to suck you in too, and you too, Lee. Thank you very much. Evie has done all of this and I have done this on a fully volunteer basis. If there's anything else you can do to support us, let us know. Feedback would be really helpful for us, ways that we could have done this better. We would really like to do this so that as we do this in the future, we can improve it and make it more helpful for people. You can send an email to, we've got an email address at the Growing Space called COVID19, fancy that, COVID19 at thegrowingspace.com.au. And we will collate all of your suggestions, not questions, this is suggestions on how to improve the webinars in general, and our presentation style, or the way that this has been run today. We'd really appreciate your feedback on that so that we can improve it. So thanks to everyone. I think we're in the meeting now. Have an awesome week. That sounds so stupid. Be the gum tree, not the birch. Look after yourselves and look after those that you love. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
Thanks, everyone.